know, fear is sort of quite contagious, and there's just something, which I'm not the first person to say, about something so slow moving and kind of inept looking, not actually, you know, but that's just, it is frightening, and because as well, David Tennant's performance of, you know, I think we all saw the level of his fear and astonishment and horror at there being Daleks on the scene, and he's just, he's so good. You whack it!
I'll follow up on that in two ways. One is, how do you convince yourself that lump of... The same way as you convince yourself that I am a travelling Time Lord. We're actors. We're pretending. That's the answer, isn't it?
I thought you were the Doctor.
Poor fellow. When I did the Dalek story, working with them is tricky because they can't move across a smooth studio floor that has a grain of rice on it without falling over. And inside you hear constant imprecations as the operator gouges his leg or his arm or his face on various bits of metal that are sticking in there. So to run away from a Dalek, you could stroll away from a Dalek and it still wouldn't catch you. So on set, they're not very frightening, but you pretend. But at the end of recording my first ever Dalek story, there's a place, or used to be upstairs in the lovely old BBC, called a bar, where I used to go and have a glass of water at the end of the recording, and then go down to the dressing room, and on this particular night, I took a shortcut through the empty studio that we'd been recording in. And in the middle of the floor, in only the emergency lighting, so very dim, was a single Dalek. And I was alone in this dark space with a single Dalek. And I had a momentary frisson. And then, as I walked past, the eye stalk followed me. And I had a moment of pure terror. Only a moment. It turned out that the operator was oiling it, because it had been squeaking all day, and he got inside to move it, oil it. But for a moment I believed in Daleks, and I was alone with one. So that image is still very potent, because we know it can be the embodiment of absolute hatred. It's not like the Cybermen who are practical and you're a nuisance, so I'll get rid of you. They actually hate you and want to get rid of you. And that's a very strong image. You'll agree, won't you?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't work for them on the classic series at all.
Did you not?
I missed out on
I didn't know that.
one of the few that I didn't get to work on with Sophie. So my first involvement with Daleks was the Chris Eccleston episode. And what you were just saying about them not being able to move across a floor that has a grain of rice on it was absolutely true. We built this new Dalek, these bronze and gold ones.
Mike, didn't you build the prototype?
We built the original prop, the very first one.
Yeah.
But we were filming in the basement of the rugby stadium in the middle of Cardiff, and it has a concrete floor that's ridged all the way along. And poor Barnaby is driving along in this Dalek, and he's rattling his teeth out. And it was like, we can't film this, it just looks ridiculous. The eye stalk's going, the gun's going. So the camera guys put down their camera track, and we lifted the Dalek up onto one of the camera platforms, and suddenly it was gliding beautifully across the floor. But of course it's now 8 inches taller than it had been in all the previous scenes. And it was a scene with Billy Piper walking alongside it. And the director said, but Billy was eye level with it for most of this episode, and now the Dalek's up here. And Billy went, hang on, back to her trailer, and came out in the tallest pair of high heels you've ever seen. And then she totters along next to the Dalek just to get herself right, just so it could drive through this location without juddering. And it was just perfect, it just worked brilliantly. And masterful thinking by Billy.